Hey everybody, welcome back to Keeping It Real with Tiff and Carl. I'm Carl Rabin,
I'm Tiff Salcido.
and today we are joined by a special guest. And it's always great to have guests, and we've been having a lot more guests on lately because more of you guys and less of us talking about stuff really seems to really help us learn, right? And it's a way that we get fed as well. Derrin Ford, and so he's a workforce development consultant and coach who helps individuals achieve clarity and structure in their professional goals, right? He's drawn on mentorship from leaders across industries, and he specializes in building self-awareness through his approach mastering internal dialogue. And he has more than 9 years experience in roles as a career counselor and workforce development coach and trainer. He currently works for the Southern Academy in San Diego State, among other hats that he wears. And he integrates critical thinking, reflection, and self-awareness strategies into group and individual settings. So thanks for joining us today, Derrin. It's great to have you.
Absolutely. I appreciate y'all having me.
Yeah. And so I just with your background and your experience we met last month at the Tribal TANF Institute,
Hmm.
and I'd heard great things because you work for one of the organizations that Tiff and I both work for as well, and so I'd seen your name, seen you do a couple keynotes. I saw you, I met you. He was at the CalWorks. I mean, he was at the West Coast Child Welfare Training Academy,
Training
Oh,
Tiff.
partners. Yeah. Hmm.
He did a keynote,
nice.
and
I was
that's where I
there and
first
I
met him.
dipped. I came
Yeah,
in and did my workshop and dipped before anybody could even talk to me. So I wish I would have stayed a little bit longer, but it was like I
Yeah.
was on a wave somewhere else. And so it was like a little stop in.
Okay. Okay.
I wish I would have stayed now. Oh,
yeah. So I think she was on her way to Glenn County, so she had to stop in Williams at that I can't remember the name of that place. See, I just ruined the joke, but you know what? It's real good. That Hofbrau kind of place. Anyways, but yeah. But we formally met last month at the
Right. Hmm.
Tribal TANF Institute, and it was really good to talk with you. And I know you got a story to tell, bro. So,
Yeah.
just
Likewise. Likewise.
yeah, I appreciate that. Especially, since we've tread a lot of the same desert dirt, Tiff. He's
Literally.
I worked
oh,
out at Kern County and Edwards Air Force Base, and he's from the Palmdale area, from
Hmm.
Antelope Valley. So
oh.
yeah, we spent a lot of
I
time
just
talking
drove through
about.
Lancaster yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah. Good old. It was like 105 probably.
It was, and it was windy. It was windy. I almost got blown off the road, but I didn't die. So we're fine. Everything's fine.
Lancaster, Long Beach. I can see weather-wise, the move, right? So
Yeah. Yeah. That's a significant reason why I made that transition. Long
yeah,
Beach,
Yes.
at its hottest is 90 degrees, so I can deal with
yeah. Yeah,
that.
you get that breeze going. So yeah, so just talk to us about your journey, in terms of, where you are currently. How, what is your experiences and your development that led you in your coaching and professional development journey?
Oh, absolutely. So, I mean, I credit a lot of my journey as being an athlete when I was growing up. My main sports were football and track, and just naturally, I took to the motivational talks before practice, the getting the rah rah stuff. I was always really into that, and so as someone growing up in Palmdale, and that route at that time was, hey, though I was decent in school, my reason of going to school was to play college sports was really a motivation of mine. But when you enter the world of trying to be, an athlete at a Division I level, it's very cutthroat. It's a very small percentage that actually makes it. So I had the fortune of playing college football at Azusa Pacific University, which was a D2 school at the time.
EPU.
And so I played defensive back and got exposure to just a lot of keynote speakers and a lot of different avenues of just coaching in general. So though that route of football did end for me, various reasons, I had a shoulder surgery and stuff like that. But ultimately, I knew my route was not going to be a professional football player, but I still wanted to stay in the world of, being a coach in some form of fashion. Not necessarily athletic performance, but I got into the side of doing career advising and also managing the what do you call it? The it's not the staff orientations, but the student workshops essentially.
Mhm.
So I went and pursued my master's degree in educational psychology, where I did work with the athletic program, but then it transitioned into being a career counselor. So what happened from there? You graduate school, you're looking for a job. I ended up landing a job at UC Riverside as a career counselor. And that's where I had the opportunity to really touch a lot of different spaces over there. I worked with what was called the Guardian Scholars, which was a foster youth program where, those who aged out of foster care got scholarships to go to universities, and we were their career counselors. So helping them find jobs, internships. I got a partnership with UC Riverside's athletic program, helping them with career counseling, and really just enjoyed it. But with the economy and the world and all the stuff that comes, you're trying to find a way to promote. So I found different positions within consulting, which led me to the academy. And with the academy, it's allowed me to be pretty much a full-time workforce development trainer and coach. And by doing that, you get to touch a lot of different regions, counties, working one-on-one with people in their professional development. And I just love it, to be quite honest with you. The way I got connected with other organizations, I spoke at a conference, and then I started hearing independent contractor, hey, you can do this on the side. And that was foreign to me. I was not aware that you can double dip and being a coach and trainer in multiple areas. And then I just hit the ground running. I feel like I credit my experience of saying yes to a lot of things, learning the curriculum and the workshops in real time, and just giving my personality out there once it comes to training and coaching. So I would say that's probably added up to over about 10 to 12 years now, if you take all of it into account. And I'm enjoying it. I'm essentially in a position to help them strategically think about things. And so I'm currently in a practice of in a business of creating a curriculum called Mastering Inner Dialogue, because the common thing that I found, that people were struggling with who they were to even move up or move into something different. So I felt like it made a lot of sense to just focus curriculum on self-awareness, positive self-talk, mastering that subconscious narrative. And so far so good. I've been able to talk about that at certain school districts, different counties, and yeah, and keeping it rolling from here. So yeah,
Cool.
just a little bit about me.
I love that so much. I always say the mindset's a powerful drug. It really does guide like behavior and what you're willing to do and what you're willing to try, and it's powerful.
Hmm.
So I love that focus on if you can think positive, then you can do positive, but you sometimes got to get out of your own way.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And it's funny, I always lead with a statistic in my trainings where, and I found this from it was some research from a psychology professor. And essentially, the human mind has around 66,000 thoughts on a given basis. And in the study, it shows that about 90% are exactly the same thought. So I looked at it as, if we're ruminating all these ideas about ourselves over time and don't really know consciously how it's affecting us, I think it's worth spending some time on those subconscious thoughts, because it's leading our paths, our habits, our behaviors in more ways than we give ourselves credit to. So hopefully that sheds perspective on, hey, like how you talk to yourself literally matters in how you show up in every area in your life.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, just, the power of self-efficacy, right? And just having that conversation, but, with goal setting or just life goals and being successful, just even with some of some of the clients that the folks that we work with, so families and folks like that for sure. And one of the things that Tiff and I do also is, as well as teaching, we do coaching, and sometimes we coach leaders, senior leaders, but just in general, talking about that idea, that internal dialogue, we come across imposter syndrome all the time,
Mhm.
right? And we've talked about it. And so just just tell us, your thoughts on imposter syndrome and how, your curriculum helps to address the challenges of imposter syndrome.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It comes up all the time. And I think that my greatest experience with imposter syndrome is that I experienced it myself. I had an opportunity to be an adjunct professor at my alma mater, and probably 27 years old, the title of professor, working with college students pursuing a degree. Though I was qualified on paper, in my mind, I was like, I just graduated. So who am I to teach this stuff and all these different things? So I absolutely think it is real. It really speaks to why mastering inner dialogue is, a passion of mine, because it affected how I showed up. It affected how I went about things. And so I knew I was experiencing. So I was able to really relate to people when I was coaching about, hey, I don't feel this way and all these different things. So really putting into perspective, like, hey, we believe these things, but it is only an idea and not the facts. Because the facts are you are qualified. The facts are you are doing the work. You are getting positive feedback from your students. And so a lot of that is just really helping people out a bit. I've kind of looked at imposter syndrome as like a defense mechanism of not wanting to be vulnerable and, addressing that. So sometimes people don't put that in the, structure of a sentence. But I think saying it out loud does help people say, you know what? I am a little nervous, but ultimately, you're right. I can get past this. And yeah, that's been my experience as well.
I am known for my confidence, but I deal with that as well. And I get in my own head, especially like keynotes and such. Being a keynote speaker feels big, right? I'm not a published author. I haven't been on TED. I always think like, who the hell am I to get on the stage and act like I know something? And then I finish it and it's great. And people come and say, I got a lot out of that. And I'm like, okay, I guess that worked. I guess, I
Right.
guess I'm a keynote speaker now, but it's hard because it's like, you want to do great. At least me, I anything I do, I want to do it well.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like to fail. I will fail and I'll learn something from it, but I'm not a fan of it. It's not something like, oh, I should fail at this. This will be great. But I want to do a great job and I don't want to waste people's times. And I think that's where a lot of the inner dialogue comes in for me. Like, did you
Right.
prepare enough? Are you ready for this? Um, you know, what do they need from you? And then I get all in my own head. I have to Wu-Tang my way out of that.
Yeah.
I literally have to Wu-Tang my way out of that. So usually when like all of those thoughts, the way I quiet them down is with my little, I can't, I don't know if we can do it here, but the Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to mess with. That's the version I replaced Wu-Tang with Tiffany. So then I'm like, Tiffany Bizak ain't nothing and I know Bizak is the name I use, but I do that in my head to drown out those other like, oh, you didn't practice, you didn't do that. And it works every time. Then I'm hype, I get
Absolutely.
up on stage and I nail it. But I always get in my own head right before.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a real thing.
Makes me
It really
mad.
is. Mm-hmm.
And no
Makes
matter how
me,
many times you've done it, there's
yeah.
still that little creep. When I'm with a team, a group that I have not met with yet, it's like this nervous excitement, and sometimes my voice will get a little constricted, right? I've been singing professionally on stage since I was 7 years old, and
Oh, okay.
every time I have a gig, even if it's at if somewhere where there's hundreds of people or where there's 20, I get a little bit of stage fright before the gig, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I found, just positive self-talk and a shot of Jameson really helps to loosen that up. But yeah, I can't have Jameson when I'm teaching a class, right? Or
No.
being an
Frowned
MC,
upon.
right? But that's one of those things where, like you said, the Wu-Tang style. I just see, you've been doing this long enough, and people really have, responded positively to you to where you are, where you're at. So, that people will like you here. And if they don't, that's a hard thing, right? You mentioned it's a defense mechanism,
Mm-hmm.
right? To keep that in our mind just in case something happens or people don't like us, right? And I also, think sometimes people are they're all, well, I don't want to sound too big headed, or the more boastful I am, the more I talk about myself, the more people will pick apart and try to find holes because there's haters everywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's a huge thing as well. But just think about, just talk to us about how you would advise somebody to be able to speak well of themselves, not just internally, but in a way where they can connect with other people externally.
Absolutely. So, it's interesting. Sometimes, depending on the session, I would share with folks that our brain fundamentally tricks itself to stay safe, right?
Mhm.
But staying safe and staying complacent doesn't necessarily equal growth. So depending on the conversation, I try to ask, well, where are you trying to grow? And whatever their feedback is, I personally like to start off with just acknowledging what the fears and the uncertainties are and how applicable is it to the actual situation. Honestly, more times than not, it's like, oh, you're right, Darren, I'm just in my head. Or you know what, you're right. I do have a fear of getting in front of people. And so at least we just put it all out there, right? And that by putting it all out there and saying it out loud, in my experience, has reduced pressure that you think it's going to apply to the actual situation. So once we lay it out and it's like, hey, this is what I'm afraid of, this is what I'm concerned about, then we talk about practicality. Like, what do we do about it? Because I am someone that's pretty transparent and believes a lot in therapy in the sense of just like getting all that out of your head. But I believe as coaches, we're talking about performance as well. So once we acknowledge it, understand how that's going to affect the performance, then we strategically talk about what you have to do from a habitual standpoint or just performance standpoint to get past that. And it seemed to work pretty well. Like, hey, you know what? This is my issue. I can do this. I didn't think of it like that. Now we're thinking practically about the situation and we kind of compartmentalize exactly what we're trying to do. So I find that that works pretty well. I'm a big activities person when it comes to workshops. So just trying to play that out in real time has helped a lot of people, in my opinion.
I like the activities too, and I think that theory only gets us so far, right? Like if you can understand the framework or how it works or how your brain works or the statistics and the information, that's all great info and it helps like create the foundation. But
Mm-hmm.
if we're not like practicing it and exercising, it's you're not going to really see any of that movement. Just like I can watch YouTube videos on how to work out all day long, but if I don't do a squat, guess what? I'm not going
Yeah.
to have my Beyonce booty for next summer. But a lot of times that's what happens is that we and I'm saying we like in like the education we do so much about teaching the theory and can you remember the dates and can you remember who came up with this theory and this or that and the other. We never really talk a lot about how do you practice it in real life, and I think that's
Mm-hmm.
where the real magic happens. And one of the reasons I went into coaching and why I wanted coaching is like we've learned the stuff, but now, how are we going to create the habits and create the systems that are going to allow you to practice that in a meaningful way and
Absolutely.
have some type of reflective practice where you can um, kind of guide yourself, right? What went well here? What didn't go well? What would I do differently next time? Like that
Mm-hmm.
kind of growth that we don't always get from just a 1 day workshop.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's empowering too, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, wow, like actually putting these thoughts into practice makes me have a stronger sense of belief that I can actually do this. And again, the person that speaks from the experience that I needed coaching. I was
Mm-hmm.
once in a place where I didn't think I was good enough. And sports can kind of do that to you. If you're not like the top person that everyone loves, you're dealing with that inner dialogue trying to get off the bench or you're trying to make a play with the limited time that you have, and the people that actually saw that, recognized it, and helped me get through it, oh, it paid dividends for sure.
I
Yeah,
love that.
you see that in professional athletes all the time. I mean, it's all about confidence, right? And
Hmm.
there's a lot of folks who are definitely confidence based. There's some folks who just have no filter and no fear of failure and just are gunners, right? And then you
Right.
have those folks who are afraid to take a shot when they need to because what if I miss, or I've been missing a lot lately, or I don't have a good history with this person that I'm facing or whatever else it is. Last time this dude juked me and took me 60 yards to the
Hmm.
house, right? So now I'm in my head about what he's going to do rather than playing my own game, right? And so that's such a
Absolutely.
it's a huge thing. But and just staying on that sports tip, because I've had a cup of coffee in college, same injury thing, my knee. But then also I've coached, and coached baseball and did that for a very long time. And one of the things I got in when I got into coaching was, oh, I could be a good professional coach. I was a really good sports coach, right? And
Hmm.
and what I realized is that they're night and day, right? And I
Right.
mean, in some aspects, and I mean, it's about developing folks, but just maybe some of the ways that we go at it and the way that we approach things. Some people may have the wrong impression of what an effective coach is, not just professionally, but even
Right.
athletically. So just talk about maybe some of your experiences there, the differences maybe between some of the sports coaches that you've had and maybe how that translates to what you do now with professionals.
Yeah, I would say a lot of it is the same. And
Mhm.
what I mean by that is can you help someone paint a picture of what they need to do next in
Sure.
whatever performance that is? The great coaches that I had back in the day, we would watch film, right? Let's put into perspective. This is the mistake, it led
Yeah.
to this result. This was the positive thing that you did. It led to this interception or whatever the case is. So it was this articulation of belief that helped me actually perform. And I really take the same sort of concept. It's like, hey, let me shadow your appointment with this family and let me hear how you're actually talking to them about being solution focused, right? Okay, the way they responded to you in a confrontational way was blah blah blah. Okay, let's acknowledge that, right? And then in a way that held, conducted a team meeting in a positive way, it works out too. So I believe it's really just, does this person have the ability to articulate performance, turn it into a habit, and improve that habit over time?
Right.
That to me is a good coach. That's what I really took from sports. And I guess a concept that was really interesting was, and this was actually from a personal trainer that I knew, he was like, it's all about the mind body connection, right? If like you can connect that movement with the mind and so on and so forth, you can then start to develop habits. So I've always just taken that concept. It's like, hey, when you are, short of breath or losing your words in front of folks, okay, let's, what are you trying to say? Let's put that together. Let's work on some practices and let's try to make it improve from next time. And I always would say it's not about necessarily outcomes with coaching. It's about the consistency and getting better, right? It's like,
Right.
can you get better more and more? But the outcome, you may still never get that family to change their mind, but did you get better in what you were articulating? And I just think it helps people control the things that they can control.
It's funny. What's something that so I'll let you talk a minute, Tiffany. You're getting me going. One of the things that I've learned as I've got older, and I wish I would have known when I was an athlete, was the idea. People talk about practice makes perfect, but I had a friend of mine who was a very successful coach. He said practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes habits.
Exactly.
Right. And so what you do, and that's another thing, what you do in practice, what you do in the game. Well, so what does that mean? That's a habit. That's where your muscle memory and your cognitive functioning is when you are under the gun and when you're dealing with certain things, that how do I slow things down so that I'm able to think and process, right? And so,
Absolutely.
yeah, I definitely see that as similar. I think what I was talking about just in the initial conversation is, think, and you articulated so well, is I think some people, they see coaching just as the rah, you can do it, I believe in you, right? Or you're terrible, just, and or the yelling, right? So, in
Right.
Australia they call it spraying. They spray their, the coaches will have a spray with their team, right? And so, um, but the best coaches don't, maybe I'll have 3 or 4 conversations with my folks during the whole season where I'm actually frustrated, or maybe 3 or 4 times where I have to get them to rah. Everything else really is about, like you said, that level of consistency where people can think through things and do things in those expectations so that we show consistent performance.
Absolutely. For sure.
Let me ask this. I know you guys keep talking about sports, and I have to say, can't relate. Can't relate. I was a football mom, and I'm good with sports for the rest of my life. So,
Yeah.
uh, but with the whole people part of this, I will say, where can that positive self-talk go too far? Like where is the rah, and maybe the you're worth it, you're good, go too far? Is there like too much?
That's a great question. Can it be too much? I guess in the context of like it's too positive where they're not actually following up on the things that they should be doing. And are you saying that?
Kind of like, so, you know, the Kruger-Dunning effect, where people have so much confidence in and self-worth that they don't recognize that they're actually really terrible
Mm.
at the thing that they think they're really, really good at. And then anytime that maybe even working with a coach, without violating any confidentiality, like there's sometimes where other people get coaches for somebody, like, I want you to help this person because they maybe need some support, and then you talk to them and
Mhm.
they're like, I'm perfect. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm already good at everything, so I don't know how I could get. That's what I'm thinking about. Is
Yeah.
there
Yeah, yeah,
where when we do say, well, here's some information, right? Here's some information. I don't want to break you down and be like, you're not as good as you think you are, because that I don't think is also helpful. But
Mhm.
where maybe that positive self-talk changes or distorts the reality of where people are actually at.
Right. No, that's a good point because it to me it comes down to the habits, right? Like, are you actually showcasing the habits in the area that you're trying to grow in? And everyone's a little bit different with that because it's one thing to be like, oh, I'm so great, I can do this, I can do that. But it's the habit and the actual performance showcasing that. And it's not
Right.
about outcomes, but is it actually are you improving? Because I know I remember I was teaching a sports psychology class and they had optimal confidence and then there was overconfidence. And
Mm-hmm.
the distinguish between the two of it was optimal confidence actually helps you recognize the thing that you need to do. Overconfidence makes it seem like you already done it. And if you
Right.
already think you've done something you haven't done, then yeah, that's where an issue can kind of arise. So it depends on the person for sure. But yeah, I think if you're not actually doing the stuff that you think that you're doing, then there's an area of growth there.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that is something that a lot of us come across. Those of us who especially work in the public space, just in government services, very often because it's hierarchical and it's
Hmm.
the further you go up the chain, it's like you're supposed to just immediately know more,
Right.
Mhm.
right? And so people are supposed to treat you different and expect you to know more. And I think some people buy into that with, I don't need to grow, I don't need to get any better, I don't need to have that growth mindset. I'm at a place now that you want to be at. You should be learning from me rather than me learning about you all. We see this in generations, right? Kids
Hmm.
these days, right? Every generation in the history of man has said kids these days, right?
Right.
Until they
Right.
get to that, then they're the ones who people talk about those kids until they become the adults that are talking about those kids, right? And so not having that growth mindset can be really hard. I think that's what you're talking about with Tiff, that irrational confidence, where I don't need to get any better. I don't need to grow. I don't need to learn. People talk about like people like athletes like Steph Curry or Michael Jordan have they're shooters and they're always going to shoot, right? But it's because they've done the work. I was just watching the Olympics Netflix show yesterday, and
Hmm.
Steph Curry was talking about this shot that he made at the end of the gold medal game, Tiff, where he was like falling out of bounds, like on one foot, and two people draped on him, and he made it. And he said, a lot of people say that's a crazy shot. He goes, but once I do this one move, everything else is muscle memory to the point where I've done that so many times
Hmm.
that I feel like there's a good chance that it's going to go in more often than it doesn't. And then
Right.
there's some people who think that they can do that just because they saw somebody. I hear that with golf. Oh, golf's so easy because they watch it on TV and these people hit it
Right.
3, 4 feet from the hole and then they can't. Right. So, how
Well,
do
I
we
can
get
do open
people?
heart surgery. I can do open heart surgery.
Right.
I've been watching ER for a hot minute. I'm ready. Put me in.
Hey,
Right. Hmm.
hey, I hear you. Hey, I can do all the stuff in the challenge. I can climb that mountain. I can, climb,
Okay,
and
CT.
yeah, yeah, don't get me started. I can't even climb a ladder, right? Just just how do we work with those folks, sometimes who maybe don't necessarily see that need or the purpose. Like you said, some people we're told to work with them, right?
Hmm.
And when we work with them, we're like, it's okay. So yeah, there might be some conversations, but you know, and maybe I'm just not even open to that conversation
Yeah.
just because,
Yeah.
like you said, fear of failure, negativity, maybe that's my own imposter syndrome coming in. I blocked it out, right? And so just that ability to grow, right? And how do you work with somebody to help unlock that door for that ability to grow as a person, as a manager?
Yeah, no, I think that's a lot of great questions because even in my times in therapy, a lot of things that come up is some people aren't right. So our profession isn't to necessarily get someone to do something that they're unwilling to do. And I think I just put that in perspective over the years. It's like, hey, let if they I would say it this way. If I've been asked to work with someone that is maybe apprehensive to coaching, I do try to start off with the acknowledgement like, well, what is areas that you aren't doing so well versus that? And if I get a peep that I do everything right, this is going to be fine. I'm 5 years away from retirement. There's nothing that's going to change. Not to say that I've given up on the person, but I understand that certain things, they're just stuck in their ways. And so what I've learned is that you can put people in a position to change, but it's ultimately up to them to change. And I just really believe in that. I'm going to do my best to put you in a position to change. Let's acknowledge, let's compartmentalize, let's work on a habit, let's even do a homework assignment. But the next week or next month, you haven't done any of that. I don't put too much pressure on myself like I used to. It's like, hey, this is your profession, this is your life. I'm just here to try to facilitate some growth. And you don't want to do it, on to the next one. I mean, not everyone's meant to sit there and grow just because someone's in their face telling them that you should grow. Like I've learned that for sure.
I feel like I'm learning that the hard way. And I've had a
Mhm.
few times recently where I've said, if you don't want to do this, just know it's not mandatory. You can not show up for the next one. It's going to be fine. So
Mhm.
if you want to, let's go. And if you don't want to, you're not going to hurt my feelings at all. So
Yeah,
do
yeah,
what you want. Do what you
exactly.
want.
Yeah, and there was a stage in my life where I used to take it personal. I was like, man, like I really
Yeah.
researched this topic and I really leaned into all this, but ultimately, I actually saw this from a Netflix show. If anybody ever seen Black Mirror? Ever watched that
Yeah.
show? Oh man, that's
Mhm.
one of
Love
the
it.
newer seasons. Someone had mentioned everyone is the main character in their own story, right?
Mhm.
And that really resonated with me because as much as you want something for someone, their perspective on the situation is completely different because they're the main character. So sometimes you just gotta recognize, like, I want this for you, but if you don't want it for yourself, like that's always going to take precedence on what I want for you. And even as a parent, and my child is young, but like I, th- those parenting advices you start to learn as well. It's like, hey, they're going to see it a different way, no matter how bad you want it for them, and you got to just live with that sometimes.
As a mother of adult children, let me just tell you, they're going to do what they want, no matter what you
Right.
do. And you know what I learned? Let them. Let them. I
Yeah.
love them the same. And I think that shaped the way that I work with people as well. I can help you. I'll listen to you. I'm not going to judge you. Like, let's talk about it. But at the end of the day, you get to decide what you want to do the same way that I get to decide what I want to do. And so I'm not worrying about what anybody else chooses for themselves because I'm too busy worried about myself. I
All
got
our own main characters. Yep.
I got plenty. I got 17 jobs. I got plenty of stuff that I can be
Seriously.
focused on. But that's where I think the self kind of going back to where we started. That's where you have to have those conversations with you to say, I did everything that I knew to do to try to help them. And if they're deciding not that's not their path, it has nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
and I love that for them. That's
Yeah.
that's that's my other. I love that. That's what you want to do. I love that for you.
There we
I
go.
love that for you.
Hmm.
It's that circle of influence, right? I mean, there's only so much
Yeah.
that you can control outside of your immediate circle, right? You can help influence some people, but then we spend so much time in the outer circle where we're worried about other things that we really can't control because we can't control the actions of other people, right? So that's such a hard thing, especially folks who are in helping professions and people who really are passionate about what they do. They do take that personal, or just even managers. I mean, managers, if I come in and I want to run it this way and I want you guys to develop a team and trust me, and the team is like, okay, well, we've had the last three managers say the same thing. So what are you going to do differently?
Hmm.
And maybe it takes some people longer to trust you. You take it personal. Well, why aren't they trusting me? I'm doing everything that that I said I was going to do, and this person's still not trusting me. It has nothing to do with you very often, but yet we take it
Exactly.
personal. Right? Another
Hmm.
show. Anybody ever watch Boardwalk Empire? I'm catching up on all these old shows.
I've
I don't.
watched
I've
a
had.
couple episodes. I couldn't get past the first
Yeah,
few episodes of that
Yeah, I
one.
never seen it.
it was good. It was good. It was good. It was about prohibition and Atlantic City and the mobsters and all that. But there's one character that the head guy is talking to, and he says, "You got to stop taking things personal." And the guy said, "Of course I'm going to take things personal. I'm a person." And he didn't know about brain science or limbic
Hmm.
responses or nothing like that. But it was absolutely, as soon as he said it, I said, "Oh crap, I'm gonna use that in a class," right? But we take everything personal, everything that
Hmm.
happens, every stimulus, we take it in, we process it. How am I responding to this? How would I do this? Why isn't this person doing it like us? And then it's for us to do that intentional shift to say, okay, this is how I'm perceiving it, but what more do I need to know to be able to connect with that person and understand their intention and the way that they move, right? So, but it's so hard. It's so hard, and that's why I really love what you're talking about, that inner dialogue that we're telling ourselves. And if we can just find a way to tell ourselves, I know what I'm feeling, but rather than them being right or wrong, maybe it's just different. And how do I find out what those differences are?
Exactly.
I
What
think
can
that
I do
opens,
about it? What can I? Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. 'Cause like I said, I've learned a lot of things where it's like, oh wow, it was just good to say it out loud to realize I don't have any control of that. And to your
yeah,
point, one of those is how people think about you, right?
yeah,
Just some different personal things I've been through where it's like, wow, I guess I am a people pleaser. But that saying it out loud makes me realize I'm stretching myself to please people that ultimately I can't control what they interpret after this. And so absolutely, it's like, yeah, you just gotta just live with what you can do. And so, again, I just really believe in saying it out loud. It just sounds different when it's like, oh wow, okay, now that I said that out loud, okay, maybe I can look at it a little bit different.
There is definitely some magic of getting it out of your head, and if you have somebody that you trust and you can say, hey, this is what I'm thinking, and have them talk you through it. If you don't have anybody in your life, go to a therapist, get a
Hmm.
coach, like somebody. And if all of that sounds like the worst thing in the whole wide universe, get a journal, write it down
Absolutely.
and look at it a couple days later. But we have to get out of our own heads because they keep us trapped for sure.
For sure. Because if you believe in the theory that there's 66 thoughts going through your subconscious mind, yeah, it would behoove us, I think I'm saying that word right, to
I
write
like it.
some of those things down because it's being flooded with so much other stuff. We probably don't even recognize how much it affects us.
Mhm.
and we make up words all the time. Don't worry about that. We're good there.
Right.
Yeah,
That's a real word.
yeah, yeah,
That's a real word. Behooved
yeah.
is it's a
It
real
is
word.
okay.
Not
Cool, cool.
Tiffany's. I speak my own language. You used it and it was pronounced correctly.
She,
Perfect.
Yeah,
Thank
you're
y'all.
approved.
Appreciate
she's
Approved.
a distant cousin to Don King. So that's
that.
she uses those Tiffanyisms all the time. Darren, where can we find you? Where can we access you on the interwebs or anywhere else?
Yeah, I would say most of my professional stuff is on LinkedIn. Derrin Ford, DerrinFord. Usually spelling my first name correctly will put you there because not a lot of people spell Darren with the Derrin. I am on Instagram at Professor D Ford underscore. I do try to keep that. I'm pretty professional and family stuff. But yeah, like I mean, I really truly look at it as if there is any interest that there is a training environment or coaching um needs out there because a lot of my individual coaching through my business are like small time, getting their feet wet sort of entrepreneurs. So anytime I get reached out on that, we set up a conference call to see if this time, makes sense, what my approach is to help you get to your end goals. And so really, yeah, LinkedIn, Instagram, probably the main ones where I conduct the business part of stuff.
Cool.
I
And
found
I
you.
have one. Yeah, I have one more question, Darren.
Yeah.
What's your favorite coaching question? What's the one you find unlocks
That's
something?
a really good one. What's my favorite coaching question? I'm gonna have to think about that one. 'Cause I think I do try to keep it unique to each person because I think I research ahead of time and then try to come up with something right there. But I would say ultimately it falls into the category of what do you feel would lead you to success after this conversation?
Hmm,
Essentially it's in there with in some form of fashion, but what do you think is going to lead you to success in this conversation? It's my belief that we're starting off with something positive. This is meant to be a positive conversation, and I get something from it, and then I'm able to pull from whatever I get and then go from there.
cool.
Love it.
Tiff, did I ever ask you what your favorite coaching question is?
Probably, but I would say my probably favorite one is, what are you hoping to be different?
Mm-hmm.
that or what outcome are you hoping for? I think those two are my favorite because I feel like a lot of times people get stuck in what they don't want or what the problem is, but they're not really sure what the alternative is. And so if I can get them thinking about possibility or at least like the goal or like something positive, then it guides the conversation closer to that outcome, whatever it is. And I
Agreed.
like to follow up with, what are you going to do to get there? What are
Hmm.
you going to do to get there? Yeah, that usually is my second favorite. What about you,
Absolutely.
Carl? You're so good at being curious. I never ask you anything back. I'm like, what, Carl, what's your favorite coaching question?
You know me, I can never have one. But one that I like to just wrap up is, what did you hear yourself say today? Because you talked about, saying that thing out loud, right? So, what did you hear yourself say?
That's a good one.
And another one I like is, who can, who do you have in your life that can help you accomplish this, whatever it is? Because we can't do it alone, right? And so, and then if all else fails, I really like, how's that working for you?
Yeah, I love that one.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, and sometimes you got to be a little nicer with that. So what you're doing right
Right.
now, how has that helped you? How has that served you? Right. Or, whatever else it is. But
Yeah.
yeah, I dig those. Those tend to really draw out a lot of introspection. So,
Yeah, puts in perspective for sure.
all right. Well, Darren, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for being with us today. And we have a new friend, right, Jeff?
I
Yeah.
hope so. I hope
Yeah.
Absolutely.
so.
No, this was fun. This was fun. Yeah, and we know each other in other spaces. So yeah,
Yeah.
we'll definitely come across each other again. This was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't
Very
wait.
cool. Yeah. And hopefully we'll bring you on again and have some more conversation as we go along. So,
Sounds like a
all right,
plan.
folks. Well, that is Darren. And I'm Carl,
I'm Tiff.
and
We
we're all
kept it
keeping it
real.
real.
That's right.
Keeping it real, guys.
Keep it real.